thought it was just another Tuesday night. He'd kissed his wife, Sarah, goodbye that morning as she left for her business trip, a 2-day conference in a city just a few hours away. He'd spent the day working from home, made himself a simple dinner, and was now settling onto the sofa with their golden retriever, Buddy. He flicked through the channels, the low hum of the TV a familiar comfort in the quiet house. He missed her, of course, but these short trips were part of her job. He trusted her completely. Around 9 p.m. his phone buzzed. It was Sarah. He smiled, happy to hear her voice before he turned in for the night. He pictured her in a generic hotel room, probably in her pajamas, getting ready for bed. "Hey you," he answered warmly. "How was the first day of the conference?" But the voice on the other end wasn't Sarah's. It was a man, his tone urgent and slightly panicked. "Is this Sarah's husband?" he asked. John's heart skipped a beat. "Yes, who is this? Is Sarah okay?" A million worst-case scenarios flooded his mind. An accident? A hospital? "She's fine," the man said quickly. "But she left her phone in my car. I'm a rideshare driver. I was just dropping her off and she must have forgotten it." John felt a wave of relief wash over him, followed by confusion. "Her car? But she drove there. She took her own car to the conference." There was a pause on the other end of the line. The driver sounded hesitant. No sir. I picked her and another gentleman up from a restaurant called the Gilded Lily and dropped them off at the Starlight Motel on the edge of town." The names hit John like a punch to the gut. The Gilded Lily wasn't a conference restaurant. It was one of the most romantic, expensive places in that city. And the Starlight Motel. It definitely wasn't the 4-star hotel her company always booked for these trips. It had a reputation, the kind of place you went when you didn't want to be found. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Nothing made sense. "The Starlight Motel?" John repeated, his voice barely a whisper. "Are you sure?" "Positive, sir," the driver replied, his voice softening with pity. "Look, I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but the way they weren't acting like colleagues. I just thought her husband should have her phone. I can leave it at the front desk of the motel for you." John's mind was a whirlwind of denial and dawning, sickening horror. A business trip, a conference. It was all a lie. The pieces of the puzzle started clicking into place, forming a picture he never wanted to see. Late nights at the office, sudden weekend work emergencies, the way she'd been so distant lately. He had chalked it up to stress. He had been so wrong. "No," John said, his voice hardening as a cold resolve settled over the shock. "Don't leave it there. Can you tell me your location? I'll come get it from you. I need to see it for myself." He didn't know what he would do yet, but he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't go on living in the dark. That one phone call from a stranger had just shattered the comfortable reality he thought he knew. He hung up the phone, the silence of the house now deafening. Buddy whined and nudged his hand, sensing his master's distress. John stared at the blank TV screen, but he wasn't seeing it. He was seeing the last 8 years of his marriage, replaying every moment, every smile, every "I love you," and questioning it all. This wasn't just another Tuesday night. It was the night his life broke in two. He drove. The 2-hour journey felt like an eternity, each mile marker a tick on a clock counting down to a confrontation he wasn't ready for. He met the driver in a quiet, well-lit parking lot. The man, a kind-faced guy in his 50s, handed him the phone with a sad, knowing look. "I'm really sorry, man," he said. John just nodded, unable to speak. He got back in his car and looked at the phone in his hand. Sarah's phone. It felt like a bomb. His first instinct was to look through it, to find the proof he both craved and dreaded. But he stopped himself. What he needed wasn't in the phone. It was in that motel room. He drove to the Starlight Motel, his heart pounding against his ribs. It looked even seedier in person than he'd imagined. He parked across the street, his car hidden in the shadows. And then he saw it. Sarah's car. The car she had supposedly driven to the conference. It was parked right there, in the motel lot. The final nail in the coffin of his denial. The anger he felt was a pure, white-hot flame. It burned away the sadness, the confusion, leaving only a steely determination. He wasn't going to storm in there and cause a scene. He was better than that. He took a picture of her car in the motel parking lot. He took a picture of the motel's sign. Then he turned his car around and started the long drive home. He didn't sleep that night. He sat in the living room, watching the sun come up, the evidence on his phone a testament to his shattered trust. When Sarah finally walked through the door the next afternoon, she was all smiles, carrying a small gift bag. "I missed you so much," she chirped, leaning in for a kiss. John turned his head and she kissed his cheek instead. She pulled back, a flicker of confusion on her face. "Is everything okay, honey? You seem off." "I'm fine, Sarah," he said, his voice flat and devoid of all emotion. "How was the conference?" She launched into a detailed, fabricated story about keynote speakers and networking events. She was a good liar. He had to give her that. He let her finish, his heart turning to stone with every word. When she was done, he simply slid his phone across the coffee table. The picture of her car at the Starlight Motel was on the screen. The color drained from her face. Her cheerful mask crumbled, revealing the panic underneath. "John, I can explain." He just looked at her. For the first time he saw her not as his wife, but as a stranger. "Can you, Sarah?" he asked quietly. "Can you explain the romantic dinner? Can you explain the rideshare driver? Can you explain why your car was at a cheap motel when you were supposed to be at a 4-star hotel for work?" Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. The lies had run out. The truth, ugly and undeniable, was all that was left between them. In the end, it wasn't a dramatic fight that ended their marriage. It was a quiet, heartbreaking silence, punctuated only by the chime of a phone call from a stranger who decided to do the right thing. John had lost his wife, but in the wreckage, he had found the truth. And with that, he could finally begin to heal. Thank you so much.